I know him because he's my son, and the first time I knew about a seizure was when I had a call from school saying that he'd had a fit at school, and I had to get there as quickly as possible and rendezvous with an ambulance.
His first seizure felt like a long, long time ago. I was actually at work on my lunch with my friend, um, and my phone rang as a withheld number, which I never answer. Um, and for some reason, I did. And as soon as they said it was the school, we can't reach your mum, your brother's had a fit. He's, oh my God, I'm going to cry already. Um, he's in the ambulance and he's going to hospital.
So I know the subject. We've been friends for like probably 6, 7 years now. Spent a lot of time together. I've been to the pub together loads. Got into all sorts of shenanigans. And in probably the first 3 years of being friends, I knew he had epilepsy, but I'd never actually heard of him having a seizure or see him have a seizure. So it kind of didn't exist to me.
And the first time I knew of the subject's first seizure was getting a phone call from the school saying that he'd had a seizure, and we went to the school, and when we got there he was in the back of an ambulance being treated by paramedics.
So I worked with him for a couple of years, and we went to West Suffolk College together. I was with him in person, and he was on like a rotatory chair, and managed to get him down onto the floor. And I had a jacket with me at the time, so I just lay that down underneath his head and just waited with him.
It was absolutely terrifying to get the phone call, and when I actually saw him having one, it was terrible. It just looked life-threatening, very scary. I was absolutely in a total panic. I had to get to school as quickly as I could. I didn't know how serious it would be, and I just raced there, and I was absolutely in a terrible state, shocked.
And then one day when we were going to film a music video somewhere, it was the morning. I think it was the first one. In the morning, I looked over in the car. We were belting out Rihanna and Eminem, "Love the Way You Lie," 1 minute, and next thing he was like keeled over in the passenger seat, like, and I thought he was playing a trick on me or something. And I'd never seen a seizure or anything like that before. So I look over and in my head, I think he's dying or something.
And luckily I had hands free in my car as well. So the whole time I was driving, I was still trying to reach my mum. Um, Eventually I got hold of her and literally picked her up on the way to the hospital. And that was it. That's how I heard about it for the first time. Um, Obviously, you know, when someone close to you or someone you love has any kind of medical episode, you worry, you go into panic. But because I think, to me, he's my little brother, we've got quite a big age gap. So I always felt a bit protective over him anyway. So to get a call to say he's in an ambulance, they don't know why he'd had a fit at the time. So you just go into complete panic mode. You know, I still feel upset about the call now, and it was, you know, years ago, and I still can feel the upset that I felt when I first had that call.
So you just have to let them get on with it, protect their head, don't hold them down until they've come out of it, and then check their airways just to make sure they haven't swallowed their tongue, which never happened, but is a possibility it might happen.
I certainly know now, I know the most important thing is to just make sure he doesn't hurt himself, because while he's having a fit, there's so much force in the energy that if you restrain them in any way, they can literally break. But the most important thing is something padded between particularly their head and any other sharp or hard object. And then you've just really got to wait until they come back to some sort of normality.
Sorry. Obviously, at the time, we didn't know what it was. After he'd had a few, they then diagnosed him with epilepsy, and we were then able to know the background of it, what to do. Basically, you know, don't try and shove your fingers in their mouth because they're not probably biting your fingers off. Just make sure they're not going to hurt themselves by hitting their heads on the floor. Just try and put something underneath their head and just stay with them, keep them protected from outside elements. Obviously, if it went on for a certain period of time, we knew to give him his medicine, and obviously call 999 if it went on for too long. But the first few times, it was just, that kind of all goes out the window because you just want to protect that person. So you have to try and remember, no, don't touch them, just protect their head, basically.
Like, what are you doing? You playing a trick on me? What's going on? And then it became pretty clear that he was having a seizure and his breathing went really heavy. He's like, and he's dribbling and he's just shaking and convulsing and he's banging himself against the door and he obviously has no idea what's going on. So I've pulled over the car and I could feel myself shaking and I've sort of opened the door. I thought, what am I meant to do? I'm meant to lay him down. And then eventually, you know, he started to come back round and he wasn't with it still and he's just a dribbling mess, more so than normal. And yeah, I didn't really know what to do with him. She take him to hospital, so I rang his mum and she was like, oh, you know, thanks for telling me and here's what you should do, which was just nothing basically.
It's just like after you've had the seizure, it's like you're just not with it at all. You don't know what's going on, what's happened, and you just have to rest.
We were actually doing, where we worked, we were working on like first aid videos and stuff. So I'd just been working on a presentation about it, literally like 5 minutes before. So that was quite handy, but like I said, never dealt with it like in person.
There really are never any signs that he's going to have a seizure, apart from sometimes he looks very, very tired, but really there's virtually no warning at all.
Other than him going really spacey, which for him is quite normal, without sounding horrible, like, you know, going really spaced out and just not with you before he has one. That's the only telltale sign. But even then, he won't always have that. And I haven't always been there when it's actually happened. I've usually been in the house, and you've heard it. You've heard the noise of him actually hitting the ground with his whole body weight, because when it happens, he's not awake. So I've been downstairs having my breakfast and you hear this almighty thud and you think, what is going on up there? And then you suddenly, in your head, you go, oh my God, he's having another fit. And that's usually what had happened.
So there's no real signs when the subject is going to have a seizure until right up before it. Like just before it, you might notice him slur his words or he's not quite with it. But equally, I've seen him have seizures from being completely normal. There was only one time, which was strange, when I was on the phone to him and all of a sudden the line went dead the other end and I couldn't hear anything from him. And I just thought straight away that something's not right there. So I rung his mum and I said, can you go upstairs and check on the subject that she was in? And it turned out he was having a seizure then. You know, you think even then you're so powerless because you can't be there and you can't see it. And if no one's there, there's nothing you can do.
To be honest, no. You might, I don't know, just become a bit vague all of a sudden. And I've asked the subject before if he notices anything prior to him having one, and I don't think he's come up with any conclusions yet.
I don't know. I'd spoken to him about it before, but I'd never obviously seen one. And I think it happens differently for everyone. I don't think they're all exactly the same. So it's kind of like, okay, this is like a personalised experience for him, and I've got to just be here and help him. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous.
I think that the hardest thing about seeing someone with epilepsy is the things that are debilitating and that they can't drive or they always have to take the medication, and there's this natural worry about going out anywhere on your own, because if you do have a seizure and something happens and no one's there to help you. And I think as well he can find it quite embarrassing sometimes, which for the rest of us it isn't at all. Like, we don't think, oh, you should be embarrassed because you've had this seizure. We're just worried. But I think, yeah, if you're out on your own, the last thing you'd want is for something like that to happen. I think that's what can be concerning, and I think that's why you do empathise with it. So
it's just deliberating for him as work goes, getting to work, because you can't drive, and you have to go at least a year without having an epileptic fit to be able to consider driving again, which up to date has not happened. So it's no vehicle, no work. You know, it's deliberating in that way, and also stressful on some of his friends who have to experience it as well.
I think he's a lot more open about it now. Like all those years ago, it was not hidden, but it wasn't really talked about. Like it was kind of like a taboo kind of thing. Obviously, everyone that knew him kind of knew about it. But yeah, it wasn't something you just kind of chatted about. Whereas now, I feel like you could just have an open conversation with him, and he's a lot more comfortable with it.
I think it's a very sad disability, but luckily for most people, certainly for my son, it can be controlled with medication. But of course the medication has side effects, and still different things can affect it even with the medication, which is stress, tiredness, and all these things that can make it more likely.
I think it's a really harsh disability, actually, because you can go from having a normal life to suddenly not having a normal life at all. Not knowing, especially at the beginning, not knowing if you're going to have a fit, what your triggers may be, because they're not the same for everybody. Whether your medication can control it, because some people have epilepsy where they can take the maximum dose and they still have regular fits. Some people are very low, so they don't need to have as much medication. But the problem is you can take your meds, but if you're stressed, if you're tired, if you're hungry, all these different factors can actually cause you to have a fit, or at least push it towards nearly having a fit. And then there can be one extra factor which pushes your body over the edge. But I do think it's, you know, it's not really spoken about. You know, there's loads of different information on different disabilities or different illnesses that you can easily get access to. But epilepsy is one of the ones that, like I say, family members had it and we didn't even know until my brother was diagnosed. And after he was diagnosed, I found out people that I knew, like friends my age, they also had epilepsy, but they had it under control for many years. So they were able to drive because they hadn't had fits. So yeah, I think, you know, I don't think enough people know about it. And I think it can be one of those disabilities that perhaps people are embarrassed about, because you can lose all control. And I think that's really hard for anybody, but particularly a teenager age, to be that vulnerable.
You don't realise how severe it actually is and how bad the epilepsy can be until you've actually been in that position and you've seen them have the seizure and you think there's nothing pleasant about it at all and you wouldn't wish it on anyone.
I just think what he does with it now is great. I think he looks after himself a lot more now, which is good. I think obviously he's probably learned quite a lot in the last couple of years. And it is just like a revolving thing. Like you just move on with it and you just keep going. And I think he does really well with it. But yeah.
I'm really proud of my brother's journey. He's done really well with it, because, you know, being a young teenager, having something change your life, he hasn't let him hold it back in many, many ways. And I'm just proud of him for that.
I would just like to say, really, if you see anyone having a fit, just don't abandon them. Just stay near them and just make sure that you don't restrain them, but you keep them safe. Could be your son one day.
Hi, I'm Henry Hatch. I'm the creator of this documentary. And you're probably thinking, why am I at the end of this video? It's because basically the people in this documentary were speaking about me. And as you can tell, I look like a very normal person. It's because epilepsy is a very hidden disability. So I'm making this to create awareness about epilepsy and show you what the true colours are. So when I had my first seizure, I was officially 14 and I didn't even realise it at the time, because I actually had my first seizure in my sleep. I just remember waking up really tired, didn't even know what was going on, and I was just confused. This is my aftermath after my seizure. I still feel really, really tired. I haven't really been able to move all day. I've bit my tongue. I'm still in a lot of pain and just still feel quite dizzy and stuff like that. Need to find some energy to get up. Some things I'm struggling to eat, and I just hope that I make a quick recovery from yesterday. And I just feeling under the weather, and I said to my mum I didn't feel great, and she didn't believe me at first, and because she thought I was just trying to get off school basically. Basically, when you have epilepsy and you're working and you don't really know what your triggers are, you tend to learn them over time. So like I can just be going out my day and I can just be walking and I can just start to feel a little bit funny, just go a little bit froze, like just a little bit out of it, and people just ask me and I'm fine, because sometimes I can just feel normal and then the next minute I can just collapse. It's quite a hard disability to just sometimes live with, because you don't know really what can happen and what your triggers can be. And I can just be talking sometimes randomly, and so I can just be going, oh yeah, I was working on this project the other day, and then I'll go, and then they'll go, Henry, hello, are you there? And I'm like, oh, sorry, yeah. And I just won't have any, sometimes I won't have any idea that I did that. And then obviously then next I just crash to the floor. And it's just hard for me sometimes, because some people do know what their triggers are. Sometimes they can be certain foods, certain smells, just everyone is different basically. Also, another trigger is sometimes in the summer when it can just get absolutely hot, and like when I haven't drunk enough, and and then my brain can just get absolutely fried and I can just faint and then go into seizures. Or even sometimes when I'm quite anxious, or just stressed out. I think that's one of the worst triggers for me, when battling my disability. It's also kind of different with epilepsy, because not everyone is the same, because some people are affected by flashing lights as well, and they can just instantly go into a fit. I'm very lucky to be not one of them ones that get affected by light, because I've had quite a bad experience when going out clubbing, because I was speaking to someone and I told them that I had epilepsy, and they just looked at me a bit weirdly and confused, and then they just walked off, and I wasn't really thinking anything of it. And then I remember one of the bouncers, they grabbed me and they said, "You're coming outside." I was like, "What? I haven't done anything wrong. Why are you taking me outside?" And they said, "Oh, well, we've had reports that you've got epilepsy." And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't get affected by flashing lights. I don't see why you're kicking me out." It's like, and then they said to me, "Oh, well, you could just be saying that just, so we can put you back in." And I'm like, if I was affected by flashing lights, I wouldn't be lying. And that was one of the things that I've really been attacked by with having epilepsy. And it's just because, like I said at the start of the intro, it is a hidden disability, and it is just very hard for people that have it, honestly. Not many people really know about epilepsy or what to do and everything like that, because they think normally they just have to hold you down, put something in your mouth, but just anything like that can really affect us and harm us. So the best thing you can really do is just get danger away from us, and put like a pillow under my head or anything like that, because it is a very scary thing. And I'm people like me, I'm very lucky that I don't get to see how a seizure happens, because I hate when people go through seeing a seizure, because it's something that you just can't unsee. So I'm just really lucky that I don't have to see it or go through it mentally.
Wow. Honestly, guys, what a year it's been. It's been a crazy year, and this is just basically my last little bit. If you've made it this far without getting bored, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. The amount of times I had to go through this with my editor, and it's driving me insane going through everything. It's made me go insane. So yeah, if you've made it this far, I love you all. But yeah, thank you all so much for everything, guys. The support, everything, and even the people in this video that have helped out. It's been amazing. And it's just basically a last little message to say that epilepsy shouldn't make you who you are. You can be whoever you want to be. As you know, I've been to, graduation, and I've done it, and I thought I wasn't going to get through it. I've had these dark times where I thought I wasn't going to get there. So yeah, this is just a big fuck you to epilepsy. To say I'm not going to let you stand in my way, and I've got better things for the new year. So yeah, thank you to everyone, and love to all the support on this as well, to everyone, to my so-called whatever fans, HJH media fans, I guess. That's a bit weird to say, but yeah, everyone's thank you in this documentary, everyone's supporting me, and then just, yeah, this is just a big last thank you message, because I know if you made it this far, it gets super long. But yeah, no, I just don't have the words to say my emotions about this, but other than thank you, and I don't know how to express it. But yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your new year, guys, and all to a better year. And if anyone wants to get to me personally, if this affected you, message me. I'm always here for a chat to help you guys get through, and I'd love to hear from you guys and stuff and how you felt from it. So yeah, I love you all, guys. This is HJH signing off, and peace.